Good morning and welcome to my office again. It's been a while since I last spoke with you, and I do intend to speak at least once a month on some particular issue. Today I'd like to talk about the church reset. I'm almost ashamed to say it, but I'll say it anyway. I love routines. Yes, I'm a routine kind of guy, and that's because routines like wheels just keep me rolling along. They also keep me comfortably centered on my tasks that get done in a timely, or should I say, routine manner. COVID-19 has ruined the rhythm of it all. It has thrown the proverbial wrench into my perfectly timed gears. Ministry that once took only a nudge here or a tweak there now requires a Herculean effort just to get ahead of whatever is going to come next. And as I pondered this dilemma, I was reminded of historical interruptions such as wars, plagues, social upheavals that have routinely disabled institutions, including the church, as it has become over time. However, I find that this can be necessary to challenge its intended purposes. Left undisturbed over time, it has created other institutions, agencies, and then customs and norms that, like the roots of a mighty oak, grow deep into the surrounding social fabric. In theory, this might seem like a well-intentioned outcome. Yet the downside is that, like one who looks into a mirror for the first time in many years, the church over time may not recognize itself at all. The most dramatic example of this in history was when the Emperor Constantine legalized Christianity, setting in motion the gears that would bring us what some have called Christendom. I myself come from a small town that some would identify as a Christendom town. Its former Judeo-Christian footing evidenced in the abundance of churches that over time leached out into the shops and the government of the city, creating a civil religion, as well as what is really a nice place to live. But getting back to my point here, I have been thinking really hard about all of this in the wake of this present distress. Is there a silver lining in these really stressful times that you and I live in? My thoughts turn to the book of Acts, to which that first gathering of believers so simply organized preached the simplicity of the resurrection. Their purpose was clear, and their message was uncompromised. Yet even so, at some point, they too began to grow roots until God in His infinite wisdom obliterated their routines and sent them packing elsewhere. This only piqued my suspicions that because of our own deep rooting into our culture, can we lose over time the original idea of the ministry? Its simplicity, its flexibility, its gentle and gracious confession of the gospel? It was Malcolm Muggeridge who, having become a Christian later in life, deeply influenced by Augustine's City of God, made this provocative statement. He said, "Let us rejoice that we see around us on every hand the decay of institutions and instruments of power, for it is precisely when every earthly hope has been explored and found wanting that Christ's hand reaches out sure and firm." His opinion, as I understood him, was expressed in the necessity that Christendom's institutions, as developed over time, needed to be stripped down to its bare necessities. Reset to the extent that the simplicity of Christ and the gospel is again the only precious feature of the church. Muggeridge is not the only one who thought that believers could lose their identity and purpose. Writing to a related concern, the Apostle Paul addressed the Corinthian believers of whom he was concerned that their thoughts would be led astray from sincere and a pure devotion to Christ. Jesus himself sent a warning to the church of Ephesus in Revelation chapter 2, who amidst their routines of routing out heretics had forgotten simply to devote themselves to love Jesus Christ. So then about that silver lining that I mentioned, It's important to realize that Jesus guarantees the church throughout time is that which the gates of hell shall not prevail against. But I would also suggest that God in His infinite wisdom will always trim its proud ambitions or its challenge its comforting routines until it is refitted to whatever expedites the clarity and the simplicity of the gospel. It's simply amazing what the church will discover when prevented from its routines and reset to what God had originally planned. He will see to it, because when you get down to it, no one can throw a wrench into His gears. Thank you for listening to this.